Garden friends, today in this video I'm going to talk about my top 5 tools for first-time gardeners. Now everybody needs to know that before you even get your tools, it's always good to get some eyewear, protective eyewear, sunglasses, some gloves, and of course a trusty hat. 'Cause I feel like whenever I have those 3 things, I feel a little safer and I feel a little bit more happy about going out in the sunshine, getting out in the garden, and so those are a must, right? So gloves, eyewear, hat, boom. Now aside from that, the top 5 tools, my top 5 tools for first-time gardeners are, of course, number 1, a shovel. Now, if you could only pick one type of shovel, right, because there's many different, different varieties, but between your square points and your round points, I'd say go round point shovel, because it's your do-it-all. You can dig with this, you can turn soil over, you can scrape a little bit. So definitely first-time gardeners gotta have a solid round point shovel. Look for ones that are built well, that actually have like a deeper little foot ledge on there. I think it'd be worth the extra couple dollars you spend on getting a quality shovel. So definitely round point shovel, number 1. All right. Now my next tool that I definitely always go out in the garden with, which is kind of a cheat because it's actually 2 tools in one, is actually your hand tool here, your hand combo weeder, planter, a little gardening hoe, little hand tool here. And these are great. You can see on one side it's got your spade and your little forks, and the other side you can scrape stuff out. And there's different varieties of them. Here's one you've probably seen before. Here's the one that I like to roll with. It's got some battle scars on there. Wood handle, real strong head on it that's replaceable. And so I really like this one. So this is a really good tool to have out there as well. So that's my number 2 tool. Number 3, very important tool, is actually going to be your hand pruner. So first-time gardeners gotta have a hand pruner, right? Your hand pruners look like that. Looks like almost like a lopper, but with shorter handles, right? And this is typically good for cutting smaller limbs and branches, 1/2 inch, 3/4, sometimes up to even 1 inch on some of the bigger ones. And then of course, I always recommend getting a little holster. There's many different types you can get. I got little leather ones and fabric ones. And these are good to have on because you can keep them on your hip. And what's really good about that is actually you don't tend to lose these so much. I just know when I have my students and other folks, when they borrow these or use them out in the garden, or even myself, you set them down and then you walk off and do something else, and then before you know it, they're lost in the garden. Now they take finding. So always try to have a holder to go with it, or definitely a trusted place where you can keep it. But another one that I have that is actually going to make the list, it's under the pruner list, is these new ones that I'm just testing out right now. And what's kind of cool about these is they have some handles on here that actually can flip out, and what that does is then it gives you a little bit more leverage, a little bit more strength. So what I like for people, you don't need to be super strong to be a great gardener. Strength doesn't mean you're going to be great at gardening. So what you can do is magnify your strength. If you don't have a ton and you want to be really successful out there, you don't want to work too hard, and you don't want the big loppers, this might be a good choice. So I'm just testing these ones out, but because they're under my pruner category, but they do kind of flip into a longer handled pruners, which is great because I think that it gives you a little more strength, more power with less strength. All right, so we got round point shovel. We've got our combo hand tool here, right? Little planter weeder tool, and then obviously you've got to have a rake. You can have a strong steel rake if you really need it, but I think just having a nice leaf rake is good for first-time gardeners, so you can do some cleanup, get that old vegetation out of there, clean up your walkways or even in your beds without doing too much damage. And so a leaf rake, boom, a very good tool to have, and just necessary, right? One of the top 5 tools for first-time gardener, right there, a leaf rake. They work great. Now, my last tool that I would recommend for a first-time gardener is basically your garden hoe, right? Just real basic. You've seen these a million times before. We use these here at the school. I use them in my garden at home. You can kind of move soil with them. They kind of work like a cultivator as well, in a way you can kind of dig up the soil, break it apart, and then remove unwanted plant growth, weeds and whatnot. But what I'd also recommend is, if you want to be the next level gardener, is test out what it used to be called a hula hoe. Now it's called like a stirrup hoe or oscillating hoe, because this top here can oscillate. It moves back and forth a little bit. You can see that there. It's got a pretty cool blade on there that's actually replaceable in this brand. I noticed this brand right here specifically, and a few others, are a lot more durable. And so they have like a steel head up here. It's all replaceable. Of course, the handle's replaceable, and the blades as well. And so you can basically keep this tool going for years and years and years without having to worry about it breaking too often, as long as it's used properly. I noticed my students they can find a way to break anything when they really are determined. But ultimately, actually, for anybody, students or a home gardener alike, what I like about this tool compared to your traditional garden hoe that I just showed you is that this blade is actually sideways now. And so when I'm out in the garden doing some work, I realize if I'm going to be out there for a while, it actually takes a lot less effort. That blade is actually relatively sharp. You know, you don't need to sharpen it like a garden tool. It's already kind of just self-sharpening in a way. But it just slices right through your weeds, and it could also, you can actually use it to cut into your soil, to break apart your soil to a certain depth. They come in different sizes. I think this is a 5-inch. You can get them in different smaller ones or wider ones if you have, you know, a lot more space at home to garden. You can hook them onto a wheel and kind of make a little plow out of it. They're pretty cool. So definitely that last tool would be, you know, a garden hoe. But if you can upgrade that to this, I think you'd find it be a lot more successful. They do slightly different things, but for the most part, just because this can't move as much soil and earth as the traditional garden hoe would, but for the amount of effort it takes and the output that it creates in the garden, and the amount of work it gets done for you, totally worth it, right? So my top 5 tools, right? We got the round point shovel, we've got your hand combo tool here, right? We've got hand pruners, we've got a leaf rake, and then we've got a garden hoe, right? Whether the traditional one or a stirrup or hula hoe like this one, oscillating, they do great. So I hope this helps you. I hope you guys are having a great time. The winter time is actually a great time to garden. It's a great time to plan out your future gardening endeavors. And so if you're a first timer, don't worry about it. You don't need a ton of stuff to get started. You don't even need all of these things. But if you're gonna have, you know, 5 tools to get going and you wanna get started, these are the ones that I think, in my recommendation, in my humble opinion, would be great for you. So from my garden to yours, happy gardening and best wishes.